It all unraveled in seconds. So quickly, Naomi Harris barely caught her breath. One instant, she was admiring a bracelet for her niece, and the next, she was accused of theft. Voices rose, hands grabbed, and then came the impact. Officer Ethan Cole slammed her hard against the glass wall, its chill pressing into her cheek as cold steel cuffs clamped around her wrists. The boutique went dead quiet. To the watching crowd, she became another black woman cornered and humiliated in public. To Cole, she was a box to tick, another arrest to flaunt his authority. What no one realized, not the officer, not the guards, not even the manager who pointed the finger, was that they hadn't just restrained a random shopper. They had assaulted Captain Naomi Harris, 20 years in uniform, a woman who outranked every man in that room. And before long, the full cost of their mistake would hit them harder than they could imagine. The glass ceiling of Mapleview Mall shimmered in the afternoon light, scattering golden rays across spotless marble tiles. Weekend chatter rippled through the wide corridors as shoppers drifted from store to store. Among them moved Naomi Harris, purse tucked neatly at her side, walking with a composed, unhurried grace. To most, she was just another customer enjoying her day. But to two men watching from the mezzanine, she looked like easy prey. Security guards Bradley Horn and Kyle Mercer exchanged wary glances. Bradley, the taller, broader one, already had his fingers on his radio. Kyle followed hesitantly, his expression uneasy as his eyes lingered on Naomi. They began to follow her through the crowd, their movements methodical, deliberate, and obvious to anyone trained to notice. Naomi didn't need to look back to feel their eyes on her. 2 decades in law enforcement had taught her how to sense a tale. She was simply here to pick out a birthday present for her niece, Jasmine. After a week buried in reports and command briefings, she'd wanted something peaceful, something normal. She paused outside a jewelry boutique where light danced across silver charms and glass cases. In the reflection, she caught Bradley whispering into his radio, black female, black purse, black sweater, keeping eyes on. Her jaw tightened. She'd been profiled before, dismissed before a word left her mouth. It wasn't new, but it still burned. Taking a slow breath, she pushed the anger down and stepped inside. The air smelled of vanilla and faint jazz hummed through hidden speakers. Behind the counter stood Cheryl Grant, the manager, her smile polite but her eyes sharp the moment Naomi entered. "Can I help you?" Cheryl asked, her tone more warning than welcome. "Just looking." "Thanks," Naomi said evenly, heading toward the bracelet case. But Cheryl stayed close, gaze glued to the purse at Naomi's side as if it might explode. Outside, Bradley and Kyle pretended to read the mall directory, their reflections flashing across the boutique mirrors. "Everything's locked up," Cheryl said, her voice raised, performative. "Only staff can handle the merchandise." "I understand," Naomi replied, measured and calm. "If I want to see something, I'll ask." Still, Cheryl drifted closer, her suspicion hanging in the air like static. "Have you ever walked into a store and felt the eyes follow you? Not because you did something wrong, but because of the color of your skin, judged before a single word, a single step, or a single touch. Every movement you make suddenly becomes suspicious, every breath measured under invisible scrutiny. Before we dive deeper, tell us, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments below. We love seeing where our audience is tuning in from. And if you agree that no one should be treated like a suspect just for shopping, hit that like button and subscribe to the Final Boundary Tales, because standing up to prejudice starts with shining a light on it. Naomi tried to ignore the tension wrapping around her, focusing instead on the silver butterfly charm bracelet Jasmine had been hinting at for weeks. It gleamed under the warm boutique lighting, graceful and delicate, a perfect gift. If only the air around her didn't feel so heavy. She leaned closer. Studying the piece, the tiny wings glimmered with crystals, catching the light like fragments of a dream. She could already imagine Jasmine's smile, that spark of pure joy that reminded Naomi why she kept going, why family meant more than the endless late nights at the precinct. "I'd like to see that one," Naomi said, pointing toward the bracelet. Cheryl hesitated. Her hand hovered over the keys before unlocking the glass case. As she set the bracelet down on the counter, Naomi noticed the faint tremor in her fingers. The nervousness wasn't about the jewelry. It was about her. "This is beautiful," Naomi murmured, reaching into her purse for her wallet. But Cheryl's voice cut through the calm like a blade. "Before we continue," she said sharply, "I need to check your bag." The room froze. Even the background jazz seemed to die in the air. "Excuse me?" Naomi asked, her tone controlled but cold. "A piece of jewelry is missing," Cheryl announced, louder now, eyes flicking toward the entrance where Bradley and Kyle were waiting. "I saw you slip something into your purse." Bradley moved in immediately, puffing up with authority. "Ma'am, please cooperate. Empty your bag on the counter." His hand hovered near his radio, ready to escalate. "That's absolutely untrue," Naomi replied, straightening, her badge of composure unbroken. "I haven't touched anything except the bracelet you just handed me." "Last chance," Bradley pressed, stepping closer. "Open the bag, or this becomes more complicated." Kyle shifted uncomfortably behind him, uncertain but silent. Naomi could feel her pulse pounding, fury building beneath her calm. "No," she said firmly. "You will not search my belongings without probable cause. You're profiling me, and it ends here." Her defiance only fueled them. Bradley lifted his radio and barked into it, "Code 10 at Lux and Lace Jewelry. Subject refusing to comply. Requesting immediate police backup." Outside, curious shoppers slowed, phones already rising to record. The quiet humiliation Naomi had endured for years was about to become public. She gripped her purse tightly, eyes locked on Bradley's, unflinching. "You're making a serious mistake," she said, her voice steady as stone. Then came the sound of heavy boots pounding toward the boutique. Backup had arrived. Within minutes, the boutique doors burst open, and in strode Officer Ethan Cole, his badge glinting beneath the fluorescent lights. His presence didn't carry the urgency of a man protecting the public. It carried the swagger of someone who loved the spotlight. Outside, the crowd pressed closer, phones raised high, recording every second. "What's the issue here?" Ethan barked, his voice booming across the boutique. His gaze swept the room before locking on to Naomi. One hand rested on his holstered gun, not out of caution, but intimidation. Cheryl hurried toward him, words tumbling out in panic. "She refuses to let us check her bag." "A bracelet went missing," Ethan cut her off with a smirk. "Always the same story, huh?" he said, eyes narrowing at Naomi. There was a look in them, disdain mixed with anticipation. Naomi straightened, her tone even but commanding. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. You can clear it up by reviewing the security footage." But before she could finish, Ethan's hand clamped down on her shoulder, slamming her hard against the glass wall. The display cases rattled from the impact. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cold glass pressed against her cheek as Ethan hissed near her ear. "Don't tell me how to do my job." "Hands behind your back, now." "This is excessive force," Naomi declared loudly, ensuring every camera caught it. Her voice burned with fury but never wavered. "I have rights, and you're violating them." "Rights?" Ethan barked out a harsh laugh. He yanked her arms behind her, snapping the cuffs tight, too tight. "You've got the right to stay quiet while I add resisting arrest to the list." The boutique filled with whispers and outrage. Some bystanders cried out that it was wrong. Others just stood frozen. But the phones, they never stopped recording. Every humiliating second was captured from every angle. Ethan spun Naomi around and marched her toward the exit. The glass doors swung open to a sea of stunned shoppers. People stopped mid-stride, their phones rising higher. "You're making a scene over nothing," Ethan shouted theatrically, feeding the chaos. Could have just cooperated. Naomi's wrists throbbed, but she held her head high, her voice cutting through the noise. "Before you take another step, officer, you should know something," Ethan sneered. "Save it for booking." Her words rang out across the mall. "I am Captain Naomi Harris, 15th Precinct. My badge is in my pocket." "You're arresting a police captain!" The crowd gasped, a wave of murmurs spreading fast. Ethan froze for half a beat, confusion flickering in his eyes, but he quickly recovered. "Fake badge!" he snapped louder than before. Add it to her charges, but the energy had shifted. The onlookers were no longer silent. They were questioning, whispering, pushing forward. She said she's a captain, someone shouted. Check her badge. Ethan's voice rose, trying to drown out the growing chant, but doubt was already creeping in. And then came the sound that would change everything. Steady, heavy footsteps echoing against the marble floors. The crowd began to part, their phones following the sound. Another officer had responded to the call. Through the thinning crowd strode Sergeant Marcus O'Neill, his frame broad, his uniform crisp, his pace deliberate. He didn't rush. He didn't need to. He was there to end this. He didn't have to rush. The weight of his presence alone silenced the corridor. Years had etched lines into Sergeant Marcus O'Neill's face, but his voice carried the calm authority of a man who'd seen every kind of chaos. He and Naomi had worked side by side for years. He knew her record, her discipline, her fairness, her integrity. And now seeing her cuffed like a criminal, his expression hardened to stone. He stopped just short of Ethan, his tone deep and commanding. Officer Cole, Marcus said evenly. Care to explain why you've got a captain in restraints? The crowd gasped in unison. Ethan froze. She's lying, he snapped, his voice cracking under the weight of 100 lenses. Claimed to be a captain to dodge arrest. I was responding to a theft complaint. Marcus's tone sliced through the air like steel. That woman is Captain Naomi Harris, your commanding officer's commanding officer. And the badge in her pocket, it's real. You'd know that if you'd checked before roughing her up in front of half the city. The corridor went still, then erupted in noise. She's a captain, someone shouted. They arrested a captain for shopping. The chant caught like wildfire, spreading through the crowd. Ethan's face turned crimson as the walls of arrogance began to close in. He opened his mouth, but Marcus stepped closer, voice sharp and final. Remove those cuffs, now! Ethan's hands trembled as he fumbled for the keys. The metal clicked open, leaving angry red welts on Naomi's wrists. She rubbed them gently, eyes locked on him, her voice low but unshakably firm. You've just proven everything I've spent my career fighting against. Intimidation, abuse of power, racial profiling, played out for the world to see. The crowd erupted, roaring in agreement. Phones zoomed in on Naomi's bruised wrists, on Ethan's pale, stricken face, on the unraveling of a man who thought his authority made him untouchable. Cheryl, the boutique manager, tried to slip away, but the onlookers turned on her too. We saw you. You started this, someone shouted. Bradley and Kyle stood rigid, their earlier swagger gone, faces blank with shame as the crowd jeered. Then came Patricia Wells, the mall's PR director, hurrying forward with a strained smile. Captain Harris, she stammered, on behalf of Mapleview Mall, we sincerely apologize for this incident. Naomi cut her off, voice slicing through the noise. Apologies won't erase what happened here. I want every second of that footage preserved. This doesn't end quietly. Ethan's face drained of color. The crowd's chant grew louder, rolling like thunder. Fire him! Fire him! Phones stayed locked on him, ensuring the whole world would see. Within hours, the fallout hit hard. Officer Ethan Cole, suspended without pay, under formal investigation. Guards Bradley and Kyle, terminated immediately for racial profiling. Cheryl Grant, fired for discrimination and misconduct, and Maple. View Mall's management, under citywide review, their security contracts frozen indefinitely. What began as an attempt to humiliate Naomi Harris had instead exposed an entire system built on arrogance and bias. As chants of justice, justice, echoed through the mall, Captain Naomi Harris stood tall, vindicated, unbroken, and stronger than ever. And if you believe every one of them, the officer who abused his badge, the guards who followed blindly, the manager who weaponized prejudice, got exactly what they deserved. Hit that like button and subscribe to the Final Boundary Tales. Because true justice isn't just about freedom, it's about accountability.